The following may contain language that is not suitable for all audiences. It's time for the Low Fact Podcast. That was a little bit more subdued than I would normally talk.
Maybe you should just go subdued all the time, bro.
Well, I'm trying not to talk so fast, but then I seem like Ving Rhames in an interview.
I think if you go too slow, people will just be like, it'll be like Somonex. People will just go to sleep.
Well, then we can charge people for that.
Well, I actually do have a friend who says that her favourite thing to do is listen to the podcast because she's asleep within 10 minutes.
I didn't know that was something that people paid for. There's a lot of insomniacs out there that would like to...
I don't know that's a good marketing point, though. Our podcast will put you to sleep like a Ken Burns documentary.
Well, I think Ken Burns' documentary put it to sleep much faster than our podcast will.
Usually in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, I could be wide awake for those things, too. It's really kind of funny.
And the funny thing about a Ken Burns documentary is you fall asleep and you have a nap and you wake up again, and it seems like it's like you haven't lost any time in the documentary.
That was my experience with Dances with Wolves when it first came out. My roommate and I, we got it. And, you know...
On video?
Yeah, because there was all this hubbub about it.
Okay.
And, you know, we were bored, so we're like, hey, let's get this Oscar-winning movie, just see what it's like. Popped it in. He was in the prairie, fell asleep, woke up again. He was still in the prairie. Or just like, what happened? Did you hit stop?
You don't like that movie?
I don't dislike it.
It is very long, though. I like the woman in it, whatever her name is.
Mary McDonald?
Yeah. Yep.
I just, I know people are trying to get to their roots, and their cultural heritage is very important to... Everyone's cultural heritage is important to them.
Right.
It's just not that important to me. So, you know.
But do you look... Sometimes when I feel like you just kind of are looking at other people just going, ugh, when people are going on and on and on about their cultural roots or...
Well, sometimes I am because I may not get the feeling that they're really into the cultural roots.
Right.
It's more about trying to gain some kind of political power.
Oh.
And I could be totally wrong about that, of course.
I get a little annoyed when people sit there and say, when they talk about their ancestors like as if they're like a first person witness to what happened with their ancestors, or they kind of speak for their, you know, they say, well, such and such happened to my great-great-great-great-grandfather. And I feel like if their great-great-grandfather was there, they'd be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. So that's what I mean. It tends to get towards preachiness in a sense.
Yeah. That
no one likes. Do I think indigenous cultures are cool? Oh, yeah. I think they're very cool.
Yeah. And,
you know, I'd like to learn about them. But it was kind of like the experience that I had... I didn't have it, actually. This is secondhand. When Schindler's List first came out, I didn't see it. I didn't see it for like 10 years. And when I saw it, I was like, okay, cool. You know, heart-tugging movie.
Very much so.
But when it first came out, I had some Jewish friends who were telling some non-Jewish friends that they couldn't go see Schindler's List without them there.
Okay.
These Jewish kids from New York were telling these non-Jewish kids that the non-Jewish kids couldn't go see Schindler's List without a Jew present, so that, you know... And I don't remember...
Why?
Well, yeah, it was like you won't get the full effect of it, and all I remember thinking is, wait a second, your entire family was in New York during World War II. And, you know... They probably had some relatives.
That's the whole, like, you gotta walk in my... I mean, that's the whole thing of, like, you gotta walk in my shoes, too. I mean, putting aside the inconsistency and that rationale, it comes from the place of like, oh, you have to have experienced something to be able to.
Well, I just thought it was kind of strange because for in order for that comparison to run true, this kid's favorite movies was the Hong Kong action movies back then, back in the 90s when it was all popular, like Chow Yun-fat movies like The Killer and Better Luck Tomorrow and those movies, right? And I'm sitting there going, so does that mean you can't watch those movies unless you have a friend from Hong Kong who happened to be a cop? And at my school, you'd be hard pressed to find a kid from Hong Kong whose close relatives were cops.
Well, that whole cultural appropriation thing, I mean, it's dumb. And that's what it makes me think of, right? You can't rap, right? Like that's a black thing. Like,
well, I just don't understand how you can appropriate culture. That's like appropriating food, right? So no one should eat other ethnic foods.
Yeah, and just only Japanese people should wear kimonos.
And, Italian people should stop eating pasta.
Because it was appropriated from Asia.
Well, Marco Polo brought pasta to China, from China.
That's a spicy meatball. No. Yeah, it's just stupid. But anyway, I don't know how we got onto this.
I don't either. But hopefully this will go out sometime during the Thanksgiving festivities.
Oh yeah.
So if you weren't having problems falling asleep before, you probably will listen to this after all the food you ate.
And it's pretty sad over here today because I didn't really buy any good food, so we're not eating like tasty snacks right now.
Isn't it because you think you're getting fat?
I am getting fat.
Well, I guess all the coronavirus shutdowns have gone away.
Finally caught up. So, yeah, happy Thanksgiving. It's just a fucking great holiday. Such a great holiday.
It's my favorite.
What's your favorite Thanksgiving food?
All of it?
All of it. Like if you had one that you would like.
No, you can't just have one. It's the whole thing. That's like asking a parent to name the child they love the most. They love all their children.
Yeah. Somebody at my work gave me her family's Thanksgiving menu, and it's just so impressive. I thought I knew about food, and then I came to America.
Well, if certain forces seem to have their way, they're going to want everyone, including us, the Americans, to have no food. Except for the elite. Which kind of, I don't know, that doesn't make sense to me.
That reminds me of something I heard on the radio this week. Is it true that that the Democrats are considering some commie to run the fucking banks?
I wouldn't doubt it.
Like literally what I heard, the article I heard was that she was a member of an actual member of the Communist Party, and she retired out. Like it's not like she was like, oh, I don't want to be part of the communists anymore. She got to the point where she was too old, and then
how do you get too old to be a communist?
I don't know. Like she for whatever reason they were saying she didn't leave the party, right? Like she was in the party. Then she came here to America, and so a lot of people, when they come here to America, they reject communism, right? That's the whole reason they're leaving the countries they're in, but not this person. Apparently, she's just all for it.
So she was high up in the Communist Party in her country?
Mm-hmm. Then the question becomes, why did she leave, right? Yeah, I don't know.
Well, she's probably not a communist.
But yeah, she's all for like, she wants to, her big thing is she wants more centralized banking, and she wants to get rid of all the small regional banks in the United States.
Well, that right there is just insane. And I'm not even going to comment on that because it makes me think of all these things, especially the whole deserves thing.
Mm-hmm.
If we go on deserves, we in America kind of deserve all the misfortune we can get, especially with the line of thought and the things that we've done, even in the past year.
Okay.
About giving up. Basically, the American public went along with getting rid of pretty much every civil liberty you can have.
And I was just like, okay.
Because it was a quote unquote emergency. And I get it. You know, people get scared and they want to keep on going. But there's a difference between the micro of yourself and the macro of a whole country or a world or whatever. And, you know, to sit there and think that you can give away your right to free association, your right to free travel.
Oh my God.
All of these, and even when they were doing that 2-week shutdown, was it last year or yeah? It was
last about 3 weeks to slow the spread.
2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever. And I just remember thinking that's the stupidest thing I ever heard. And of course
That's bullshit.
Of course, because I'm like, there's no way. I mean, you can't give someone more power and think they're going to be like, oh, I got this power, now I'm going to give it back. That just don't happen. That really hurt. A lot of people looked at me sideways when I said that. And I'm just like, it's not.
And now we're supposed to just forget it. That's the other thing. Like, everyone's behaving like it just didn't happen.
What do you mean, like it didn't happen?
Well, like no one's talking about what's happened. Like no one's talked about the fact of
it's still happening.
Except people aren't in their houses anymore, and people aren't really wearing masks anymore.
Yeah, but they've already given it away.
It's done?
Yeah.
How so?
What do you mean, how so?
Well, you mean people have allowed it to happen?
It's done. It can come back anytime, for any reason, and people are going to go along with it.
You think people will go along with it?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people that wouldn't go along with it.
Well, it's going to be hard to get it back.
Are you talking about the vaccine passports and stuff? What are you talking about?
All of it.
I don't feel like it's a done deal, though. I mean, there are certain people that kind of signed on, but there were plenty of people that said no way. Like, I'm not getting the vaccines, or I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. I mean, there were people that were never on board with it.
Yeah, and they were vilified.
Yeah, that's true.
You're a killer.
Yeah.
You don't want to go along. You're trying to kill me.
You know what I saw today? I saw a fucking thing in someone's front yard that said, I wear my mask for you, you wear your mask for me. I'm like, that is some bullshit. I'm not wearing my mask for you.
You're wearing that mask,
but
you think...
I'm wearing my mask for me.
Everyone wears that mask because they think it's going to help them. And you know what? You better wear your mask too, because that'll also help me.
Yeah.
It's like the whole. It's like the.
I wanted to write like bullshit. I wanted to spray paint bullshit on their sign, but.
Well, that would be vandalism.
Yeah. But it was I literally like laughed out loud when I saw it. I was like, but it's not really funny. Because it's. To laugh at it is just kind of like, I don't know. That's not doing anything.
I mean, this whole last year, all the movements, everything, even women's movements and all that stuff, they're a way to corral people. And I love talking to people that think that they are uncorralled, saying, oh, people just want to be told what to do. And I'm like, does that mean you too?
No.
But it does.
Don't tell me what to do.
People want to tell other people what to do, and the people that think that they've got something going on or that they're better than somebody else or others, they think they should be the ones to tell other people what to do. Everyone in government. Everyone who sits there and thinks, oh, if I vote for this one person, everything will be hunky-dory. You don't vote these people in forever. You know, there's all this talk about, oh, they're all these good people that, you know, they just want to make a living and blah, 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 blah. which is true, but...
Are you talking about government now?
Anything. Cops. Do I think all cops are bastards? Fuck no. That's a stupid sentiment. That's like saying all people are bad.
Yeah.
Or all people are good. That's the biggest bullshit statement in the world. All people are good. That's and you know, I don't want to go off on a swearing rampage, but I want to because that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. All people are good. Nobody's good. You can rationalize about how good you are or how evil someone else is because they're opposing you.
So you don't think there's people that are born good and people who are born evil?
I think people are born people. They're born lazy.
Lazy.
We are. We want. It is inefficient to do. Oh, okay. Well, here's one. When I was taking a criminal procedure class, and you know, we hear about all the law enforcement people that sit there and skirt the rules, the rules that the government put up to catch criminals, because you know what? They're probably guilty of something. That's true. Everybody's guilty of something. But the whole point of the criminal justice system is to catch someone when they do something illegal and punish them for that illegal act.
Right.
Not punish them for all these other illegal acts that we didn't get them on because they're a kingpin.
Yeah, and that's exactly the way that they're behaving with you're right, with the coronavirus stuff. That's exactly how it is.
Now, is it a bit idealistic of me to think that? Oh, hell yes, it is. But, you know, I mean, you got to aspire to something.
Well, that just reminds I know I promised I wasn't going to talk about it, but the whole Rittenhouse trial thing. I mean, there's people, the same people who would say if the shoe was on the other foot and they would be all for justice, they would say justice needs to be done, right? But in this case, if it's an outcome that they don't want, then they're going to sit there and they're going to say
it's a miscarriage of justice.
It's a miscarriage of justice, or you know, there was the MSNBC thing. They're trying to deny that they told some producer to follow the jurors' van.
Really?
Because they were trying to identify, and now NBC's trying to like distance itself and say, oh, that was just like some rogue fucking producer. Like we didn't make that call.
It's always some rogue person, isn't it?
You know, and I'm like, basically, you were trying to find out who the jurors were.
To what end?
That's the question, right? So, you know, I don't know, man. Stuff's just weird. But it's nothing new. It's nothing new.
Yeah, and you know, it's terribly hard to be objective.
It all just makes me mad, though.
Well, I'm with you on that. I'm so mad I'm losing sympathy.
But maybe I don't know. Maybe sympathy's overrated.
No, I don't think it is.
You know?
I think sympathy actually kind of helps us be more. Well, right. It helps us be more compassionate.
But maybe people don't. Maybe some people don't deserve compassion the way they behave.
Nobody deserves compassion in my book.
Well,
but also in my book, everyone should get as much as they can get. Compassion, that is.
Huh? As Scooby-Doo would say.
It might not come from me. You know, you come to harm me and mine, you're going to get zero compassion from me.
Yeah.
Actually, you'll get more than zero. You'll get negative compassion.
I'm just sick of like entitled people. People, and it's kind of funny because I know that I behave in an entitled manner.
But what exactly is entitlement? I know we keep on talking about the same things.
Well, it's
which is probably why people fall asleep listening to us.
It's basically expecting somebody to behave like they're kind of like a servant to you.
Well, that's a pretty weird expectation.
You're here to kind of serve my needs, and even if I have an unreasonable request, even if I have a request is unreasonable and I'm going to treat you just very rudely and very badly, you're supposed to, you know, always be nice in response to my needs.
That seems like a very... There's no nice way to put what I'm about to say, so I'm just not going to say it. But
I mean, I've experienced it a bit lately, and I'm like, no. I'm like, no. I'm not going to be nice to this person who's who's behaving like this. I'm not going to be rude, but I'm not going to be accommodating.
That's natural.
But it's a lot. I notice it a lot. So, I don't know if people are going to kind of wake up and say, you know what, that kind of behavior doesn't fly anymore. But I think there's a lot of people who are just kind of fed up with it.
Well, they're fed up with it I think people get fed up with it when they see other people getting breaks that they don't feel they get in their life. That's when the fed upness kind of occurs. Someone pulls you over for speeding. Why you pulled me over for speeding? Those other people were speeding too. Why aren't you pulling them over? Well, because you just happened to catch that person's attention. That's why.
Yeah, well, I guess life isn't fair, but
these are all statements that we say that everyone seems to have very little thought into it. Life's not fair. You're right, life's not fair. But the people that say that, they aren't facing a great injustice. Right? The people are like, oh, when you want to make omelets, you got to crack a few eggs. Well, what happens if you're the egg that has to be cracked? See, I would love it. I would love it if people had to face the consequences of their actions themselves directly.
It just reminds me of a picture. It's like two stick figures. One stick figure standing at the top of the cliff, and one guy's hanging off a branch, and this other stick figure's hanging off the ledge.
Uh-huh.
And the guy that's the stick figure at the top is like, hang in there, and the guy that's hanging off the ledge is like, fuck you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just it's really tough, and these are questions. These thoughts are thoughts that have that have puzzled humans for ever and ever since we've been around. You try to enforce ways to keep people from doing untoward things to each other, but people seem to try and spend a lot of time to work around it. This whole idea that we can all live happily in harmony, and it's just like, but we can't. And I remember asking people, this was a question that I used to ask that no one would answer honestly. Like, would you be the one to suffer if everyone else you knew and loved could live pretty well, but you'd have to suffer and no one would know that you're suffering for them? To a person. Most women, actually, were all just like, yes, without any thought, just to the point where I was like, are you crazy? Like when I would ask, are you scared to die? And to a person, everyone was like, nope. And I just sit there going, how can you say that with zero thought?
Because it's like an immediate response, right? Like, they're not like, oh, I have to think about it, or...
Well, I've thought about it, and I'm not scared to die, but I don't want to either. I would rather not suffer. I don't want to be tortured to death. I mean, that just... Ugh. Or waste away with a disease. I mean, that just... Oh, that scares me to no end. But the final moment?
I don't even like to think about it.
I used to think about it a lot.
Not me. I just like to... I don't like to think about that at all. I don't know if that's good or not.
Well, it's just... I don't think there should be a label on that, or there could be, but you owe the house one, right?
I suppose.
Everybody owes the house of death. It's coming. And, to make light of it, I want to die like the joke, peacefully in my sleep.
What does that mean, Dave? Not screaming in terror like the
passengers?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just... I see these things. I see these things like the Rittenhouse trial, and he's a 17-year-old kid, right?
He was 17 when it happened,
and I don't know what he was doing out there. I guess he was trying to help.
If you accept his explanation, he was trying to help and keep people from destroying his town.
Mm-hmm. So because I remember the media at the time, they were saying, oh, he drove 2 states, came across 2 states.
Well, one state went from Illinois to Wisconsin.
But it was like a few miles, right?
It was like the difference between St. Louis, Missouri, and Belleville, Illinois.
How far is that?
It's like 20 miles.
So it would be like going from LA to Orange County.
Less.
That's just really funny.
It would be like me going from North Orange County into South. It would be like my commute from Orange County to Long Beach in LA County.
And everybody that didn't know anything about the trial, though, like he got fucking vilified. I mean, he's been called a domestic terrorist,
Murderer,
and then when you look at the footage, you're like, oh, well, what was he supposed to do?
Well, it doesn't paint the whole picture, right? He was supposed to stay home. He was supposed to let himself get beaten, according to the prosecutor.
Or a skateboard's not a deadly weapon.
Yeah. So, of course, I remember seeing all the footage about when they were talking about those riots.
Which riots?
The riots, the
riots that were everywhere.
The summer riots where the big boys, the CNNs and the MSNBCs and all the left-wingish type media folks were sitting there saying, who says riots are supposed to be, who says protests are supposed to be peaceful or whatever, right? And how, like, you know, protests and riots are the language of the unheard or whatever. And to say that and then when somebody else does it for a position that you're not supportive of, now they're criminals.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there going, and even with the thing, right? What turns someone from a murderer to someone who's not a murderer in that sequence? And it's basically what? A change of perspective, change of certain facts, and that still bothers me, right? Because, you know, you kill someone in a war, you're a murderer. All the elements are there. But you're in a war. And so your side's going to give you medals, give you all kinds of accolades for doing that.
It's just got to feel pretty weird.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're the guy getting the medal, I mean.
Oh, definitely. You want to get a medal for killing people? I mean,
Yeah.
I think the Purple Heart's the best. You get a medal for getting shot. Wounded.
Yeah. Not a hangnail.
But I like that's why I like some of the American Indian cultures that kind of have like a little ceremony to kind of get you in some in some better psychological space to kind of take away from whatever bad feelings you should get.
Yeah.
Because those tribes went to war all the time. And, you know, they stole from other communities. They killed other warriors. But when
What's the ceremony?
I think it depends on the tribe. But I think the Lakota have one where, you know, you get to wear the war bonnet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those feathers.
Yeah.
And you get, you know, you're a warrior. You know, you get accepted and, you know, praised, and you did something great for your community. But if you were one of those tribes that went into a Lakota camp and did that stuff, those Lakota would try to kill you. You're evil. I don't even know if they thought you were evil.
Probably not.
You know, they're trying to do what they can to get by. You just happen to try to do it to us, and you got caught.
Yeah, I don't even know if evil came into it.
I like that attitude. I mean, the stuff where you see like the old. Oh, this was back in the 90s, where you see the people that survived D-Day. They'll bring the vets together, American vets with German vets, and These are old guys. They're just happy they survived.
Yeah.
They don't carry any malice. They don't seem to carry any malice or ill will towards the Germans because they were fighting for their country too, even though their country was, I'll say it, it was an aggressive act. It was a war of aggression in my book.
Yeah.
But even with the Civil War, where I grew up, they I don't know that when I was growing up, they never called it the Civil War.
What did they call it?
Where I grew up, they called it the War of Northern Aggression.
Still.
Yeah. Well, Vicksburg, apparently, they got bombarded in 1863 by General Grant, like bombarded. And when Vicksburg finally gave up, they gave up. They had to give up because, it was just, they either be wiped out or, give up. So they give up. Apparently, and this is a Ken Burns documentary, apparently the city of Vicksburg didn't celebrate the 4th of July for 100 years.
Wow.
They didn't celebrate the 4th of July till 1963.
Wow.
But, last bit of Civil War trivia. You know what the official federal name for that war is?
I have no idea.
The War of the Rebellion.
The rebellion being the
Southerners,
South.
yes, they rebelled. Although I think when you kind of read the Constitution, I think that was something that they were allowed to do.
So do you think there's going to be another rebellion?
Another Civil War?
Yeah.
I think it's kind of happening, but it's not going to be the kind of warfare that was around back then. I mean, it's happening now. And it's I think it's a cultural civil war. It's basically where we're going to go and be as a country. And looking at it, it just seems like that it's kind of not going very well for the country and the people. When you kind of give up everything that this country's supposedly built on and stands for, how can you continue?
I mean, it'll lead to.
I mean, you got
destruction.
You got the 1619 project that doesn't even. There's a lot of historical inaccuracies.
Yep.
And to sit there and say that the United States was started just to have slavery, I'm just like, I think some people wanted it. Did the average Joe trying to plow his field want that?
The Puritans were fleeing England. I mean,
weren't they in Holland though at the time?
Oh, I don't know. I thought the Puritans came from England. Well,
they were English, but they a lot of them left England and went to Holland.
Okay.
And then they came here.
I didn't know that part, but I know they were trying to get away from the monarchy.
Well, they were trying,
and they wanted religious.
Well, America was born on religious freedom.
Yep.
And to them, religious freedom did not mean I want to be an atheist. To them, religious freedom was there should be no state-sponsored religion.
Yeah.
And I'm down with that. Now, did they think religious freedom meant, I want to be an atheist? Well, I don't think they thought of that because nobody was an atheist back then.
Nobody was an atheist. Shit, I don't even think now people are really atheists.
Well, they're probably not when a life or death situation comes up.
I mean, you got to be praying to something when that happens, don't you?
You're definitely praying. You're hoping. So, so yeah, I mean, the one thing that I kind of was looking at that is something that we always discuss anyway, and we probably don't need to discuss it. Like what exactly is the right thing was a question, and that's
the right thing.
That's something that we've been wrestling with for however long we've been doing this podcast. What exactly is the right thing?
You mean what is right and wrong?
Well, what is the right thing? And the reason why I say this is because the recent bill that got passed in Congress, the infrastructure bill, got passed with 13 Republican congressmen voting for it.
Wait, is this the one that has... This isn't the one that's before Congress right now. They're trying to get more money, right?
I don't know. The last one. The one that happened like early November.
Okay.
And the whole point of that was like... Because I haven't always been, but in my older age, I'm starting to think that the original setup of voting for offices was probably better, in that the only people that you directly vote for are your local folks, your local city council folks, your local state assembly, senate folks, and your federal congressmen. Senators were picked by the states. The president was picked by, not the people.
Mm-hmm.
And, in 1913, was it, when they introduced the IRS stuff, they changed to where the folks voted for their senators that they sent to Congress. And the whole point of that was to get rid of all the corruption that was going on. And that's my point. There's nothing that we can do to stop corruption, to stop crime, to stop malfeasance and bad deeds. And so, I think the question that all of us need to ask is, how much are we willing to deal with? I personally am not willing to deal with too much, because the people in power always get more money, more this. I mean, this whole idea, technically anyone who is a natural born citizen of the United States can become the president of the United States. The last person that seemed like a quote unquote common man that did it was Abraham Lincoln in my book.
He was a lawyer, right?
Yeah, but he was born in a log cabin.
Oh, he was?
He was dirt poor. I think he maybe had 2 years of school.
Huh.
But they didn't take this guy with 2 years of school and make him the president. He was in the Illinois militia. He fought the Black Hawk Indians. He became a lawyer, a successful lawyer at that. Then he was in Congress. Well, he was a politician. And then he became the president. So President Abraham Lincoln was a far cry from, Abraham Lincoln that was born in Kentucky.
Yeah. I didn't know he was from Kentucky either.
Well, he was born in Kentucky. He moved to Illinois. He was from Illinois when he became the president.
Right.
But, everyone that holds the levers of power in an elective office are pretty well-to-do, fancy-pants dudes.
Yeah.
And the people that are in the government, in bureaucracy, another one of my favorite movies, right? You don't change Chinatown, Chinatown changes you. So you might go in, and Huey Long's a great example in my book of that. He went in as this crusader for the poor and wanted to get rid of whatever or whatnot. And then he became known for being probably one of the most corrupt people in politics.
So he totally got corrupted.
Well, I don't think it's that far of a trip for any of us. And, I think it would really behoove us to remind ourselves every day about how fallible and weak we are and cut other people slack for it. Now, like I said before, I'm getting so angry that my sympathy is kind of waning and wearing thin. I'm having very little sympathy for others, and that's not the type of man I want to be.
Yeah.
You walk around having no sympathy for other people, basically all you are is a thug.
But it's hard when people are doing and saying shit and you're seeing what we're talking about, like the country just descending away from its founding principles, then it's... When I see somebody who I feel like is all for that, or is at least dumb enough to not see that that's kind of what they're propagating or supporting, then it's hard to feel sympathy for that person.
Oh, you're right. It's very satisfying when they trip and fall or lose something.
I'm like, there's a part of me that I'm like, I want that person to fucking have to pay for, the consequences of what's happening.
Yes,
but the thing is
as
that
do we all.
Everybody's going to pay.
As do we all.
It's not like it's going to be...
Well, everybody pays.
Be meted out, right?
No. Everybody pays for not enforcing. The whole reason why people are hurt is because there is self-enforcement going on in every community. And usually it's from the women. So, women have way more power than they think they do, or they claim they do, whether they know it or not. And when you see people trying to take a different role in the enforcement, or enforcing something that might seem like a good idea because it seems compassionate, or it seems nice, or it makes you feel good.
Mm-hmm.
That's when things can go awry, right? What's the good book say? Is it the road to hell or the road to perdition? I like perdition better.
I don't know, actually.
But the quote that you always hear as a young child growing up in the Bible Belt is the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah.
I like perdition better. Right? So the road to perdition is paved with good intentions. Now that's something that should be tattooed on your heart.
Yeah.
And everyone from the time that they're a little babe should know and always and should know this and should feel this and should pretty much that be their mantra.
But they don't, Dave. I mean, it's like there's so many kids now.
Right. So is it the kid's fault? Is it the kid's fault that they didn't learn this stuff as a kid? No. Is it that adult's fault that they didn't know that? Now, if this kid grows to be an adult, still thinking that and not being educated.
Mm-hmm. Educated.
Right. Now, part of me is like, well, at a certain point, there's a line of demarcation where, yeah, it is your fault.
Like when you become an adult.
If you say that you should get certain rights and privileges.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's all about good intentions now, right? Everyone's like, well, I was trying to do good, or
well, yeah, but
I'm trying to do good, whatever.
Right, but what do good intentions and $3 get you?
I don't know.
Maybe a small cup of coffee at Starbucks. That's like when I had that big beef with you about you saying, well, I know what the problem is, so now I can fix it. I'm like, well, knowing what the problem is just the first step. It doesn't magically fix that. And
plus, I guess actually getting to find out what the problem is probably not an easy. It's not an easy answer.
It's an incredibly easy answer.
Is it though?
Yes, it's just what you have to do afterwards that's tough that you don't want to do. I mean, I really, because I'm a person that's kind of really geared towards action, I understand that I am. People that see me in certain situations might think that I'm the laziest person on earth, and I can be. But I am very much geared towards action. If there's a problem, I will do what I can to fix it.
That's true.
Now, just sitting there saying, well, I know there's a problem and I have identified it. There are so many people, too many people, that sit there and think, well, okay, that's it. That's not it. That's just step one. And I get really, really, really angry at people, my closest friends that would sit there and do stuff like that. It's like, well, I figured out what the problem was, so now I can get the answer. Like, yes, you figured out the problem. Yes, the answer, you can get to the answer, but now you have to do it.
That just reminds me of that scene in Moneyball where he's sitting around with all the staff.
Yeah.
And he's like, what's the problem? And they're like, the problem is we got to replace Joby and da-da-da. And he's like, ah. He's like, what's the problem? And he's like, da-da-da. He's like, no. And then he's like, blah, 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 blah.
What was the problem?
The problem is that they needed to change the whole way of approaching winning games.
Okay, well, I think the problem with our society right now is that we need to change the way we approach society.
That sounds like a big problem.
It's a small problem. Changing is the big part. We've had 100 years of letting this problem fester. True enough. I think.
And it's been exported everywhere too, by the way. Like America exports a lot of good stuff and a lot of bad stuff.
Well, America exports weird culture. Like when I see people flipping the bird in Korean dramas, it really annoys the hell out of me. When I see people using English in Korean stuff,
yep,
it really bugs me because I have to do it because I cannot speak Korean like I can speak English.
But they speak Korean.
Yeah.
I mean, they speak fluent. They're yeah.
And a lot of the upper crust folks in Korea come here to study.
Yeah.
Doing a tour in America is kind of par for the course.
Right.
Back when I was in college, you saw all these rich kids coming to college in America, and that was because they were too stupid to get into college in Korea. But they had money. Loads of money.
So colleges are like
So,
Yeah.
so their parents sent them to America
Yeah.
because, to get something.
I just remember that story you told me about somebody where he was like, his dad was like, how much you need for a car?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
How much is a car?
Yeah, yeah.
And he's like, he gave him some massive number. Right?
Well, no, it was my buddy. It was a buddy of mine from, I think it was from Malaysia.
Oh, okay. I thought it was
And he told his dad he needed a car because everybody in America has cars and just driving around is kind of, it's hard to get anywhere.
Right.
So his dad's like, well, how much do cars cost in America? And this is in the 1990s, where your average POS piece of shit American car probably set you back $10,000.
Right.
Right. So my buddy, this cat, he's smart. He's like, they cost about as much as they do in Malaysia, Dad. So his dad wires him $100,000 and says, buy a nice one.
Dude, he could have bought a nice one and fucking pocketed the rest.
Dude, he was
spent the rest.
Him and this other cat that I knew whose family owned like an incredibly large construction company in Japan.
Uh-huh.
They were both swimming in women. It was just not even funny.
I'm a little jealous.
I wasn't.
You weren't?
Nah.
Well, you got to probably like...
Well, they were my buds, so we all hung out, and then I got to meet these women, and I was like, eh.
Yeah.
They were pretty, no doubt about it. Tons of pretty girls, but there was nothing to them.
Yeah.
And, say what you will about my sorry ass, and that I've got nothing, got no body, but you got to have some substance for me to want to be with you.
Nobody knows.
Yeah, exactly. Right? I mean, like I said, I probably missed my window.
Nah.
That's another point of contention that we can do another time, but it's really because I'm looking for some substance, and the substance isn't looking for me. So anyway, hope you guys have gorged yourself on tons of great food, and if this helps you fall asleep, then pass the word to your buddies.
And also, just a quick bit of marketing. We're now keeping our stuff up on SoundCloud, so you'll be able to go to all the places you listen: iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, anywhere you can find us. These episodes are going to be staying up, so you're going to be able to go back and listen and go to sleep listening to some of our earlier episodes. But if you want to go way back in the archives,
you can
also find us on BitChute, YouTube, places like that. So
are there more places than that?
That's it.
Then why are you saying places like that?
I don't know. Most people just say wherever you listen, but we kind of do it a little different here. So
well, we're like mosquitoes. We're everywhere.
Yeah. Bye-bye.